The Warrior's Promise, a tale of love, honor, and sacrifice. In a time long ago, deep within the heart of Africa, two powerful tribes, the Zubri and the Adumu, lived on opposite sides of a mighty river. The Zubri's land was lush and green, filled with dense forests and fertile fields, while the Adumu thrived in a rugged, arid terrain, where towering mountains stood against the sky. For generations, these tribes had coexisted peacefully, sharing the bounty of the land and respecting each other's territories. However, as time passed, envy and mistrust grew between them, turning former allies into bitter enemies. The river that once symbolized life and unity had become a line of division, a boundary marking the start of open hostility. Disputes over resources and land escalated into frequent skirmishes, as both tribes fought fiercely to defend what they believed was rightfully theirs. In each tribe, honor and tradition were paramount, especially among the warriors who were bound by sacred codes of loyalty and duty. In the Zubri tribe, every warrior took the Warrior's Promise, a solemn vow to defend their people and never abandon their duty, even in the face of death. Kwame, a young warrior of the Zubri, had recently taken this sacred oath. He was respected for his bravery and unmatched skill in battle. With broad shoulders and a fierce determination, Kwame carried the weight of his tribe's expectations. Trained from a young age to wield a spear and shield, he had earned the admiration of his people through his prowess on the battlefield. But despite his outward strength, Kwame was burdened by an inner conflict. The constant violence and bloodshed between the Zubri and Adumu weighed heavily on his spirit. Though proud of his role, he longed for a world where peace might one day reign. Often, Kwame would sit alone by the fire at night, staring into the flames, consumed by thoughts of the endless cycle of war. He dreamed of a future where his skills could be used to protect rather than kill, but he knew his duty came first. The Zubri's greatest rival was the Adumu's war chief, Kofi. Tall and imposing, Kofi was known for his cunning and ruthless tactics. He had led numerous successful raids against the Zubri, earning a reputation as a formidable adversary. Kwame had faced Kofi on the battlefield many times, and their encounters always ended in stalemates. There was a mutual respect between the two warriors, each recognizing the other's skill. Across the river, in the land of the Adumu, lived Amina, the daughter of the tribe's chief and a gifted healer. Unlike the warriors of her tribe, Amina was dedicated to preserving life rather than taking it. She was well respected for her knowledge of herbs and remedies, often tending to the wounded after battles. Amina was compassionate and wise, qualities that set her apart from the fierce warriors she lived among. However, like Kwame, Amina was conflicted about the ongoing violence. She longed for peace and believed that the cycle of bloodshed could be broken, but she was also aware of her duty to her people and her father's expectations. Amina dreamed of a world where her healing skills were no longer needed on the battlefield. One day, during a fierce battle near the river, Kwame was gravely injured. As the Zubri warriors retreated, leaving him behind, Amina, who was gathering herbs nearby, found him unconscious and badly wounded. Despite knowing that Kwame was a Zubri warrior, an enemy, Amina's instinct as a healer compelled her to save him. She carefully tended to his wounds and brought him back to her healing hut, hiding him from the rest of her tribe. As Kwame regained consciousness, he was initially distrustful of Amina, knowing she was an Adumu. But as she continued to care for him, he realized that she meant him no harm. Over time, Kwame began to admire Amina's kindness and strength, and his feelings for her deepened. Similarly, Amina found herself drawn to Kwame's courage and honor. Despite the enmity between their tribes, they discovered a connection that transcended the hatred and violence that had defined their lives. As Amina and Kwame spent more time together, their bond grew stronger. They shared stories of their lives, their hopes for peace, and their fears for the future. But they both knew their love was forbidden, a dangerous secret that could bring severe consequences if discovered. Kwame, deeply moved by Amina's compassion, made a promise to her: he would do everything in his power to end the conflict between their tribes and bring about peace. Amina, in turn, vowed to support him, even though she knew the risks were great. The days passed, and as Kwami's health improved, he became increasingly aware of the danger his presence posed to both him and Amina. He urged her to let him go, to allow him to return to his tribe, but Amina refused. She believed she could keep him safe, but the tension between them grew as they both understood the gravity of their situation. Unbeknownst to Amina, her younger sister, Aminata, had become suspicious of her secretive behavior. One day, Aminata followed Amina to her hut and discovered Kwami. Shocked and terrified, Aminata confronted her sister, demanding to know why she was harboring an enemy warrior. Amina pleaded with her sister to keep her secret, explaining how Kwami was not the enemy they had been led to believe and sharing her vision of peace. Aminata, torn between loyalty to her family and love for her sister, reluctantly agreed to keep the secret, but warned Amina that they were playing a dangerous game. Meanwhile, Kofi, the Adumu war chief, grew suspicious of the recent lull in Zuburi raids. Sensing that something was amiss, he ordered his warriors to be vigilant. His instincts told him there was more to the situation than met the eye. Despite Amina and Aminata's best efforts to keep Kwami hidden, rumors began to spread within the tribe. One day, a group of Adumu warriors, acting on a tip-off, discovered Kwami in their hut. They immediately captured him and dragged him before Kofi and the Adumu chief, Amina's father. Amina was devastated by Kwami's capture and rushed to plead for his life. She confessed everything to her father and Kofi, explaining how she found Kwami and nursed him back to health. She declared her love for Kwami and begged them to spare his life. Amina's father, the Adumu chief, was furious with her for betraying their tribe by harboring an enemy. He felt deeply betrayed and considered Amina's actions a disgrace to the family and the tribe. Kofi, on the other hand, saw an opportunity to use Kwami as a bargaining chip. Rather than executing Kwami immediately, Kofi advised the chief to use him to their advantage. He suggested they send a message to the Zubri, demanding a truce and using Kwami as a hostage. The chief reluctantly agreed, seeing the wisdom in Kofi's plan but still seething with anger. As punishment for her betrayal, Amina was stripped of her status as the chief's daughter and forbidden from practicing her healing arts. She was banished to the outskirts of the village, where she lived in isolation, shunned by the community. Aminata, heartbroken and fearful for her sister, secretly visited Amina to bring her food and supplies. When the Zubri tribe received the Adumu's message, they were enraged. The Zubri chief, who was Kwami's uncle, was furious that his nephew had been captured and used as a pawn. The Zubri warriors, led by Kwami's best friend, Bekari, prepared for a rescue mission, determined to bring Kwami back and punish the Adumu for their actions. The Zubri warriors launched a surprise attack on the Adumu village at night, aiming to rescue Kwami and force the Adumu into submission. The battle was fierce, with both sides fighting with all their might. The village was thrown into chaos as warriors clashed under the pale light of the moon. During the battle, Bekari managed to free Kwami from his bonds, and together they fought their way out of the Adumu stronghold. Despite his injuries, Kwami refused to leave without ensuring that Amina was safe. As the battle raged on, Amina, who had been watching from the outskirts, decided to intervene. She knew that the only way to stop the bloodshed was to confront both tribes and make them see the futility of their conflict. She rushed into the village square, where the fighting was most intense, and threw herself between the warring warriors. Kwami, seeing Amina's bravery, remembered the promise he made to her. He called out to the Zubri warriors to stand down, urging them to listen to Amina and give peace a chance. Bekari, though reluctant, respected Kwami's decision and ordered his men to lower their weapons. Amina spoke to both tribes with passion and desperation. She told them of the love she shared with Kwami and how it had shown her that the divide between their people was a man-made illusion. She implored both tribes to end the cycle of violence and to see that their shared humanity was greater than their differences. Amina's father, the Adumu chief, was deeply moved by his daughter's courage. He saw in her the strength of her mother, who had also sought peace before her untimely death. Though it pained him, he realized that continuing the cycle of violence would only bring more suffering. Slowly, he lowered his spear, signaling the Adumu warriors to stand down. Seeing the Adumu chief's decision, Kwami's uncle, the Zubri chief, was faced with a choice. Though he had been a warrior for most of his life, he could not deny the wisdom in Amina's words. Reluctantly, he too ordered his warriors to stand down. He then stepped forward and offered a hand in peace to the Adumu chief. The two chiefs shook hands, a gesture that signified the end of the conflict. The warriors, though hesitant at first, slowly began to lower their weapons and embrace the possibility of peace. Amina and Kwame stood together, their hands clasped, as they witnessed the beginning of a new era for their people. In the days that followed, the Zubri and Adumu tribes came together to celebrate the newfound peace. The chiefs agreed to hold a ceremony to solidify the truce, and both tribes participated in the festivities. There was singing, dancing, and a shared feast, symbolizing the unity that had been achieved. As a symbol of the new alliance, the chiefs blessed the union of Kwame and Amina. The two were married in a beautiful ceremony attended by both tribes. Their love, once forbidden, now served as a foundation for a lasting peace. With their love as their guide, Kwame and Amina led their people into a new era of peace and prosperity. The river that had once been a symbol of division now flowed peacefully between the two tribes, its waters reflecting the light of a future built on unity and hope. The warrior's promise was fulfilled, not with the blade of a spear, but with the strength of love. The end. This concludes the epic tale of The Warrior's Promise. The story is one of love, sacrifice, and the power of unity in the face of long-standing conflict. Through Kwame and Amina's journey, we see how love can break down even the most deeply rooted barriers and bring about lasting change.